The Herdmans were absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world. It's a great line, and it's the first thing we hear in the movie, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. You might have seen it. It released last year, but it's out now on digital, and it will be releasing on Blu-ray and DVD on October 28th. And today, the director of the film, Dallas Jenkins, is sitting down with us to talk about The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Dallas, how are you doing?
Brett, thank you for having me on, and it's good to talk to you. Like I said offline, I've been talked to PluggedIn many times over the years. I have not met you before, so we'll see how this goes. We'll see how you do.
The pressure is on. Well, thank you for taking the time. So, talking about The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, it came out last year. What drew you to make the movie version of The Best Christmas Pageant Ever? Did you have a connection with the original 1972 book?
Yeah, so the book has been out for a long time, and it's been a classic. It's been read in public schools, which is one of the things I'll get to in just a moment that really connected me to it. Was growing up, I actually read the book in school, and remember, there was a film that was a TV movie based on it back in the early '80s. And then I didn't read it or think about it a whole lot for a long time until about 20 years ago. My wife brought it home, and she's like, "I remember reading this book as a kid. Let's read it to our kids," because we're always looking for something to do with our kids around Christmas. And so I started reading this book to my kids, and right away I was like, I don't remember how funny and witty this book is. This is so smart, and also this is like a real Christmas story, meaning it's set in a church. It's set with this family that it's a regular church going family. And yet it's about these, they're introduced to these kids, these six kids from the wrong side of the tracks who are, according to
Right.
the narrator, through the eyes of a child, the worst kids in the history of the world. And I'm thinking, this is so funny and yet heartwarming. And I get to the last chapter after these kids have taken over the pageant, these awful kids taken over the pageant. And there's so many things that I related to, right? Because I grew up in church, and we did
Mhm.
Christmas pageants every year. And just like the books talks about, the Christmas pageant's the same thing every year. It's traditional. It's never all that good. It's just kind of it's kind of low rent, church stuff.
Yeah. Same old,
And
same old.
yeah, exactly. Same old, same old. But then because these kids have never heard the story before, and because they're in such poverty and there's such struggle, they actually understand things about the Christmas story, and they're asking questions about the Christmas story that those of us who've heard it a million times don't think about. Well, I get to the last chapter where they finally put on the pageant. And I am crying so hard, I can't even read
Mhm.
the words on the page. And my wife's like, all right, and my kids are like, what in the heck's going on with dad? And my wife says, all right, let me read it. And so she starts reading, she's crying. So while I'm recovering, we just basically take turns reading the book while the other person recovers. And my goodness, it was just so heartwarming and yet funny and meaningful, all and witty at the same time. All of those things. I closed the book and I said, I have to make this movie. I don't know why
Mm.
this hasn't been a feature film yet, but I'm the one who has to make this movie. And for years and years, I kept reaching out to the rights holders, trying to get the rights. And they were like, well, it's with another studio and another director. And I was so heartbroken. And every year I'd check the, the announcements and try to see if this movie had been made yet. And it hadn't. And then a few years ago, because of The Chosen, I reached out to the rights holder one more time, and I'm like, please, man, you got to let me do this movie. And he's like, oh, funny that you reach out. He goes, the rights had lapsed with this studio. They never got around to making it. And he goes, my mom, just a couple weeks ago, reached out to me and said, have you heard of this show called The Chosen? And he said, oh, that's interesting. I've been reaching, this guy has been reaching out to me every year, bugging me about the rights to the best Christmas pageant ever. And she said, you have to make this movie with him. He's the only one who can do it. You need to watch this show. What are you thinking about? And he's like, well, so my mom, was making me consider you. And so let's talk. And so finally I got a chance to get the rights to the movie and make it with Lionsgate, who put up the money and was supportive of me and came out in theaters last year. And I'm fortunate to say it was a hit by objective measurements. And now it's here on streaming and DVD and Blu-ray and all that. So it's been very, very gratifying.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film, and so I had no idea. It was quite an odyssey,
Yes.
actually, even just getting to make it. So
Yes.
so for 20 years about
Yeah.
it was leading into the making of the movie. That's incredible. Well, one of the things that you mentioned that when I watched the movie recently, I just found so moving as well. You talk about seeing a familiar story a familiar Bible story from someone else's eyes that has never ever seen it before, and it's like you get to relive that with fresh eyes through them
Yes.
and see that impact. Why is that so important for us as Christians who, you mentioned you grew up in church. I grew up in church as well. As someone, I'll say, who connected with the character of Elmer, I think, who was kind of an unwilling at times participant in the Christmas pageant because his dad was the minister, right?
Exactly.
Uh,
Yes.
why do you think it's important for Christians to really evangelize, but then see the gospel and these things through fresh eyes?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so interesting about it. And I discovered this years ago when I first made the short film about the birth of Christ from the perspective of the shepherds that
Mm,
ultimately led to The Chosen, is that I was just doing it for my church's Christmas Eve service. But I remember thinking and realizing that, like, the story that I've heard so many times, we don't ever want to change it, right? Because of course it's a true story, and
mhm.
the gospel is true, and the gospel is foundational, and we never want to change that story.
Right, right.
But when we hear it over and over again, our obsession to get it right and to never change it is a good thing, but it can become a little bit routine. And
Mm,
it can start to be words on a page. It can start to be a stained glass window. It can start to be an icon. It can start to be a pageant every year. And
mhm,
it just becomes routine. And maybe we start to take it for granted a little bit. And many
mm,
times it's the eyes of someone else, and they're even, especially if they haven't heard it before, or if they're, in the case of the best Christmas pageant ever, these kids who are from the wrong side of the tracks and are in poverty and were raised without a dad and haven't heard the story before. Well, they come to it with fresh eyes. They start asking questions, and you go, and
mhm.
that's what I love so much about the book and on our movie, is they're asking questions, and you go, gosh, I'd never actually considered that before.
Yeah.
Our routine keeps us from asking some of these questions and thinking about some things that can really unlock the story from it for us in a fresh way. And so what I've heard from people all over the world when it comes to watching The Chosen over the last 6 years, seeing the stories of Jesus through the eyes of the disciples, through the eyes of Jesus's enemies, through the
Mm,
eyes of those who actually met him, and you realize, wow, I hadn't really considered that before. And that's what's happening in the best Christmas pageant ever. Is
mhm.
I feel like for whatever reason, God has given me this task of telling the. Johnny Erickson Tata once said after she watched The Chosen, she goes, "I felt like I was seeing the old story for the very first time."
Mm.
And I'm like, that's what I feel like God has tasked me with. Is there a way that I can tell this story that we've heard so many times, but it feels like it's hearing it for the first time? And there's a freshness and
Mhm.
a joy and a laughter and a tears that come from hearing this story in a way that you haven't before. And I
Absolutely.
think that's making sure that that's done with with by someone like myself who believes the story, who's not going to change it, just going to
Right.
show it to you from new eyes. And there's something about that that really reawakens the passion for us.
That's tremendous. Well, so did you, I guess, with such the odyssey that it took to get the rights to make the best Christmas pageant ever, did you just have this on your heart as I know you wanted to make this movie, but did you have it on your heart that, hey, I want to make a Christmas movie? You had directed some episodes of the Chosen Christmas episodes, but was that ever in your mind, or was it mainly just, hey, if I can make the best Christmas pageant ever, that's what I'm doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, there was even, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, people would ask me something like, so what's the movie you really want to make? Or what's your, what? And I always would say, there's a book called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever.
Mm,
That's a movie I always want to make. Now, it happens to be a Christmas movie, which I love. My favorite movie of all time is It's a Wonderful Life. Christmas
mhm,
is my absolute favorite time of year. I love the story so much. I love the time. I love the coziness of it. So that's for sure true. But there's something that is really interesting about the best Christmas pageant ever is that I think because it's a Christmas movie, and because when you watch the best Christmas pageant ever, it hits all the notes of of a traditional Christmas movie. You want it to feel timeless, right? And I think that when people watch it, they say what I was really hoping for, which is like, it feels timeless. I can't really tell what decade it is. It just
mhm,
feels familiar. It feels cozy. It feels whimsical. I'm like, yes, that's all the things that I was going for. So I don't know that it's necessarily like, well, I have to make a Christmas movie. It's just I happen to really love Christmas movies, and I happen to really love Christmas Story, and I really took took to this story because of the humor combined with the emotion. And that's something that I'm always been really passionate about as well. I think when you watch my work, when you watch The Chosen, when you watch The Chosen Adventures, the animated series that we have coming out now as well, you're going to see this combination of wit and, you know, humor with emotion. You know, I think both emotions, whether it's tears or laughter, are right at the surface when you're watching the things that I do. And I think that's because that's how I am. And that's what moves me about great stories is they make me laugh. And then all of a sudden there's a turn and I'm crying. And then again, there's a turn and I'm laughing. And so that's what we're really trying to go for. And I think that's what is the common thread among all of my work. At least that's what I'm trying to do. Whether I do it well or not is up for the audience to decide. But that's what worked for this movie, I think.
Yeah, well, I think you struck the right chord with the best Christmas pageant ever. So, considering the source material, the movie was going to need a lot of great performances from very young actors. How was that process for you? Was that a new process? How did you go about directing some of the child actors who, in the end, really gave some awesome performances?
I was so fortunate. Every day that I talk about this movie, I'm reminded of how grateful I am that we got these great kids. You know, when you're casting kids, it is a challenge. And, you know, we saw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of actors for these roles. And what's interesting is God narrowed my choices. It was like the majority of the people who auditioned just were not right at all. It was very clear. And the kids who auditioned that you see in the movie, it was like the moment we saw them, it was like, that's it. That's Imogene. She's the hardest person to cast. She's the lead character and is, you know, runs the gamut of emotions and has to, at the end, make you cry. And that actress, Beatrice Schneider, I remember when I saw her audition, I'm like, oh my goodness, we have struck gold. And I'll never forget when I was on set with these kids. You have limited time because of child labor laws, which are a good thing, because you know you don't want to abuse these kids with 12-hour days. But we have limited time with them, and you know, I love kids. I've taught, I've coached, I'm a dad myself. I have 4 kids, and I feel like, you know, I was suited to kind of to do this with them, but the job of just making them comfortable. I knew that if I could just make them comfortable and confident and not be too distracted, which is very, very difficult with kids, not be distracted by all the things, you know, the lights and the cameras and all this stuff. I knew that I just, that these actors were going to show up ready, and man, they were so good. And we get comments about that all the time. Like, where did you find these kids? And these kids are so good. And I'm like, yeah, it wasn't easy, especially when there's so many kids in one scene. I had to be a bit of a zookeeper, a bit of a coach, a parent, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, all of the above at one time. But man, it was so worth it. And I think you know, regardless of whether you love the film or not, I think everyone can agree that the performances of the whole cast, but particularly these kids, was something else.
Yeah, well, so then with that in mind, so moving from the child actors to some of the adult actors, you know, Judy Greer, Pete Holmes, they are very well known for their comedy chops. How did you go about landing on them? Were they people you kind of envisioned from the start of like, hey, we should reach out to these people? Judy Greer in particular brings a lot of humor, but a lot of warmth to the role as one of the movie's heroes. How did that process work out? How do you land on some of those
Yeah,
roles?
well, you know, Lauren Graham is also in the film, and when her
Yes.
name kind of popped up as an option, you're like, well, you know, look, anytime you get a chance to work with someone like her from Gilmore Girls, and make my college daughters happy, that was a great opportunity. Pete Holmes is someone who, from the beginning, I had my eye on. He's a great stand-up comic. And I love stand-up comedy. I love stand-up comics. They have great timing. And for some reason, you know, I've seen a lot of his podcasts and his interviews, and I thought he grew up in the church. There's a warmth to him, a kindness to him, yet also a sharpness and a wit. And I just thought, I don't know why. I always thought of him as being someone who'd be right for this role. And sure enough, he was. Judy Greer, I will say, and she knows this, so I'm not saying this behind her back. She wasn't my initial thought, my initial choice, because she's played so many kind of zany characters. She's kind of known as the quirky best friend so often, and I hadn't
Right.
really considered her or seen her as a mom as a warm mom, someone that struck me. I really wanted the mom in this character in this movie to remind us all of those moms that you know, the stay-at-home mom that also volunteered at the church and just had this range of warmth. And you think, well, Judy is the comic. She comes in and she's quirky. And then I remember seeing a glimpse of her in Ant-Man, where she played that mom
Mhm.
character, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then I met with her, and she had read the script and really liked it and wanted to meet me. And just talking to her, I thought, you know what? What was I thinking? Of course, she's right for this because of her sense of humor, because of her perspective on life. She's going to really bring that sense of there's just something behind the eyes. And boy, she is so
Mhm.
good. And I'm so proud of her performance in this movie. And now I can't think of anybody else. And that's
Sure.
Sure.
that's the best compliment I can give. And that's what people say when they see it. They're like, oh my gosh, Judy Greer is so perfect. And you might not have thought of her initially. So she's the one actress that I didn't quite of all the cast in the movie that I hadn't initially thought of, but then once I met her, I was like, well, what was I thinking? She's the only one. She's the only one for this.
Sure. So how much fun did you have filming all the trouble the Herdmans get up to?
Well, here's the honest truth. I never have fun. I never have fun filming. Filming
It's
is
work.
not fun. Filming is hard work. You have limited
Sure.
time. It's expensive. It's when I had, you know, no less than 6 kids in every scene, and they're all different, you know, ages and different levels of ADHD. It is not it is not a fun, warm time. Now, I love the kids. I love the actors. I love their parents. I mean, I'd love to hang out with them, but filming is a difficult, painful thing. I don't like
Mm.
filming. I do love having filmed, and I am truly proud of how the scenes came out. But yeah, they're you know, when you're doing scenes like that where they're, you know, causing trouble and there's stunts and there's visual effects and there's animals and all this stuff, it is painful. But when everyone comes together, and I had a great crew, they all worked hard, the cast was amazing. We got what we needed, and it shows on the movie. You know, I'm very proud of how the movie turned out. It's the movie that I wanted to make. It's the story that I wanted to tell. I think it does the book that I think is so beautiful and brilliant justice.
Mm.
It does the story of Jesus, the story of the birth of Christ justice, I believe. So it was all worth it.
Absolutely. Well, it from my perspective, watching it again, the fun definitely comes through just leaning into kind of the zaniness of the Herdmans, but again, that warmth in the heart that is at the core of the story. Um, so what's your favorite memory from the production of the best Christmas pageant ever? Based on your response, maybe it's when it was done, when filming was done.
Yeah, definitely saying wrap, that's a wrap, and knowing that I had the footage that we needed was a great memory. I will say this though. There's a scene in the movie at the end when they're putting on the pageant. This is the big moment of truth. This is when the worst of the worst kids playing Mary Mother, you know, is in the key moment in the pageant when they're singing Silent Night, the moment in the book that caused me to weep so much I couldn't even read. That was when I was like, I've been thinking about this scene for 20 years. I've been thinking about executing this scene, and I'm so desperate and hopeful that the scene itself will live up to this moment in the book. And not knowing if it would, it's very hard. I mean, there's a lot of people involved and a lot of things that can go wrong. And Beatrice, the actress, her, you know, I don't want to give too much away, but her tears are real. This 12-year-old kid putting on this scene, and when we're filming it, and my wife is there because she's like, I got to be there for the filming of this scene. This is the moment that we've been waiting for so long. And I'll never forget that because she was so good, and the camera work and everything was exactly what I'd hoped for. And I'll just when things come together like you've envisioned and you've hoped for and you've prayed for so long, that's when the magic happens. And I was just so proud and grateful. Um, and I'll never forget that. And you know, 25 years from now, and hopefully we're celebrating like the 25th anniversary, I'm still going to come up to that little actress. She'll always be a kid in my heart. She'll be an adult when that happens. But I'll be like, I'm forever grateful to you for nailing that scene.
Mhm. That's incredible. Well, you know, this is a movie that I could definitely see families. I'm sure some families have already committed to saying, "Hey, we're going to watch the best Christmas pageant ever every year as one of our movies in our Christmas rotation." So, what are maybe some of the traditions, the movies that make kind of the annual trip around in the Jenkins household?
Not a single Christmas has gone by without me watching It's a Wonderful Life. It's my favorite movie of all time. It's the best movie of all time. I cry every time. I mean, every time, every time. When he, reaches in for Zuzu's pedals from his pocket and starts running home. Even as I'm saying it right now, my eyes are misty because I just tears streamed down my face. And every year, my family, we get together and, turn the lights off and we get the food out and everything and watch that movie. And I'm so proud to say that my kids cry every time now. And I hope that their kids are going to experience it. But yeah, that's the unmissable tradition every year.
That's wonderful. That's a power. That is a testament to the power of story for
Yes.
sure, and how it can impact us. Well, Dallas, thank you so much for the conversation. It's been an awesome time talking with you about the best Christmas pageant ever. And we want to remind our audience that the best Christmas pageant ever is out now on digital, and it will be releasing on Blu-ray and DVD on October 28th, just in time for the lead up to the Christmas season. Thanks again, Dallas. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Bret, and good job. You did you're going to be here for a while, so Plugged In
All
will be
right.
proud.